Hello, friends. My name is Ashley, and this is the free workshop on how to make decisions with your authority. I'm super excited to be here, and I think this is going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to move quickly through the material, and we'll have time for Q&A and real-life application scenarios. So feel free to make this as interactive and engaging as possible. I do want to give a shout out to Jenna here who's on the call because the training title for this was her idea. I asked on my Instagram, what should we talk about? And she suggested how to make decisions with your authority. So here we are. I'm super excited. I did make a little PowerPoint for us. I'm not sure if, well, I want to use part of it because this is, it can be pretty helpful to have visuals when talking about human design, but I don't want to be too boring. Katie, hi friends. I'm glad that you're here. It makes me so happy when I see familiar faces. If you haven't listened to my podcast, When Your Stars Align, you should go check it out. There's a new episode coming out tomorrow with Katie. We're talking all about projector, or she's a manifestor, I'm a projector, but we're talking about all of that goodness. It's gonna be super fun. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to share my screen so you can see my PowerPoint. Maybe. Share. There we go. Let's start at the beginning. This is our free workshop on making decisions with your authority. Welcome. What we're going to cover today are the 7 ways that we make decisions in the human design world and which one of those is best for you. We'll talk about how to discover your personal authority, which is that like magical decision-making tool. We'll talk about how your authority can work when combined with your specific type, whether you're a generator, a manifesting generator, a manifestor, a projector, or a reflector. And we'll talk about how you're the most susceptible to conditioning from the outside world and how you can become the wisest version of yourself. Plus, I'll share a way that we can dive deeper into human design so you can become the most authentic version of you. Quick disclaimer, I have a little puppy here with me named Louie, and he likes to bark at things outside the window. And there's a really good chance that my sister could come home from work while we're on this workshop. And if that happens, Louie will start barking. So should that occur, I will mute myself for a couple minutes and then we'll come right back into this. Okay. You have 0 skill in decision making. Great. We can work with that, Katie. Okay, so if you haven't already, grab a notebook and a pen so you can take some notes. And if you're brand new to human design, your first step is to go to jovianarchive.com and enter in your birth information and get your free chart. We're not actually going to wait for you because we have so much to cover. But go do that while I'm talking and pull up your chart so that you can follow along as we go into all of this. Because if you have never seen your chart before, you're not going to know what your authority is, and then none of this is really going to make sense to you. So that's the first step. Okay, so new friends, hi, I'm Ashley. And my mission is to show you how living in alignment with your design can create magic and effortlessly up-level your life and your business. My human design, I'm a projector. I have splenic authority, which we will talk about today, and I have a 6-2 profile. I also have a master's degree in psychological counseling from Columbia University. I worked as a therapist for a few years. Then I worked as a life coach, and now I am transitioning into human design coaching, if you want to call it that. Chart reading. And when I'm not reading human design charts, you can find me practicing yoga, training for my next half marathon. I actually need to change that to marathon because I told my friend I would run a marathon with her next February. So I actually have to start training. Binging on Schitt's Creek on Netflix. It's the best show ever. And basically living my best projector life. And that's me in a nutshell. So this is my human design chart, and I wanted to show this to you in case you're new to human design and you don't know what you're looking at. When you get your chart, this is kind of what you're going to see, but yours might have different shapes colored in. You might have different lines. You'll have different numbers here, and it can be very overwhelming. So I want to go through kind of the basics of what all of this means. And then, well, today we're going to be talking about one of the things that human design can help you with, which is decision making based off of what your chart says. So when you see your chart, you'll see these 9 shapes throughout it, and those shapes are called centers or energy hubs, and they're very similar to the chakras if you're familiar with the Hindu chakra system. So we have the head center at the very top, then the ajna, which is like the mind, the like logical brain, if you will, the throat, the G center, the heart, the solar plexus, the sacral, the spleen, and the root. And depending on which of your centers are colored in, that means they are defined, which means you have a set way of processing information through those centers. That's going to determine your authority or how you make decisions. So that's why it's important for you to have your chart, so that as I'm walking you through this, you can be looking at your chart and seeing which centers you have defined or undefined. So if you have an open center, that means it has no gates. So on mine, my only completely open center is my ajna here. So there's no lines coming out of it. So there's no gates. I have no definition. I have no set way of thinking about things. So like I literally have an open mind. I can think about things all different ways. You can also have what they call an undefined center that has gates coming off of it, but no channels. So undefined, I have my head center here. So it has a gate, but there's no channel connecting it to my ajna. My solar plexus is also undefined. It has 2 gates, but no channels. My root has 1 gate. My solar plexus has 2 gates. I mean, my sacral has 2 gates. So those are what we call undefined. And then a defined center are any center that's colored in. So my throat, G center, heart, and spleen are all defined. So I have channels connecting my heart to my spleen, and then I have a channel connecting my G center to my throat. So your chart will look different. You will have different channels connecting different centers. Different ones will be defined and undefined and open. And depending on what all that looks like, you will have your type and your authority. So I didn't put a slide in here talking about your type, but I do want to go into that really quickly in case somebody is brand new. So I'd love to hear from you guys in the chat what your type is. It's going to be one of the first things that shows up on your human design chart. It will say type, and then it will either say manifestor, generator, manifesting generator, projector, or reflector. And your type is determined also by which centers are defined. So my type is a projector. Jenna is a projector. Katie is a manifestor. Is this Tatiana? Is that how you say your name? Tatiana. Yes, okay, thanks. And I know Sasha's here. She's a projector too. So we have quite a few projectors and a manifestor, which is we're all our generators, manifesting generators. It's cool. Okay. So your type determines how you interact with the world, what kind of energy you put out, and certain types also have certain kinds of authorities. So let's get into that. Why is this one open? Oh, there's my Spotify. Okay. So human design says your authority is really, really important because in our society, we've kind of been conditioned to operate, to make decisions with our mind, with our head, with our logic, with how we're mentally processing information. So our mind thinks it knows what's best and it tries to be the boss. The problem with that is that it's not always true for us. And our authority is how we can make decisions that are uniquely right for each of us. And we each do that in a little bit of a different way, depending on our type and our strategy and whatever our authority is. So for a lot of us, when we discover our authority, it takes some practice, some experimentation, some I was gonna say peeling away the layers, but it's more like deconditioning bad habits that we've been trained to, like how we've been trained to operate from society. Oh, my sister is pulling in the driveway. Be prepared for the dog to bark, you guys. I'm gonna have to mute myself in a second. Hold, please. I'm gonna hold the dog so you can see him go insane. This is Louis the puppy. He's very sweet and loves to cuddle, but he hates when people come home when he's already home. Okay, this is real life, you guys. We're back. All right, I pulled this quote from my book, The Definitive Book of Human Design, right here because I thought it was a really great explanation of what our authority is and how human design says that we can use it to become the most authentic and like fully expressed version of ourselves. So it says, although we are all conditioned to seek approval and authority outside of ourselves and to make decisions from the mind, we do have a trustworthy personal authority that we can actually rely on to make choices. And when we intentionally practice our strategy and authority, we align with our unique geometry and things just naturally fall into place, such as where we live, our job, and our relationships. So that's really what this is all about, is moving away from making decisions with our mind and starting to actually trust our authority so that everything can kind of just naturally fall into place how it's meant to be. So there's a hierarchy of authority depending on which of the 9 centers you have defined, colored in within your chart. So if your solar plexus, which is this triangle here on the very far right side of your chart, if that's colored in, that's automatically your authority. That's like the strongest, most prominent authority. So solar plexus is also called your emotional authority. And I'm going to go really deep into each of these, so don't worry. But if your solar plexus is colored in, that's your authority. If your sacral center here, this square, if yours is red, but your solar plexus is white, then you're going to have sacral authority. If your spleen is colored in, but your sacral and your solar plexus are not, then that's your authority, which is why I have splenic authority. If none of those are colored in, but your heart is colored in, you're going to have ego authority. And if none of those are colored in, but your G center here is colored in, you're going to have self-authority. If you don't have any definition below your throat, so if none of those are colored in, it's going to be environmental authority or no inner authority. And if you are a reflector, meaning your entire chart is white and you have nothing colored in, you're going to have lunar authority. So tell us in the chat, please, what your authority is. Mine is splenic. So based on which of the centers are colored in, it's going to tell you your type as well. So like generators and manifesting generators are going to be the only ones that have sacral authority because they're the only ones that have the sacral center defined. And because those are the most common type, they make up like 70% of the population. Most people are going to have sacral authority or emotional authority. Emotional, self. I love that you have self authority. Splenic, emotional. Very cool. Awesome, guys. I like that we have a range so we can experiment, talk about the different, like how this all plays out for us. We'll come back. Zoom. Sure. present. All right, we're going to start with solar plexus authority because this is the top of the food chain, right? So this is for those of you with emotional authority. So I believe that was Jenna and Sasha, right? So if you have solar plexus authority, if your solar plexus is colored in, that means you have emotional authority. And you, my emotional friends, literally need to feel your feelings before you can make a decision. Your job is to learn to feel the high highs and the low lows, and to only make a decision after your emotions have leveled out and you're cool as a cucumber. Y'all, I typed this morning during my first cup of coffee, and I'm just now seeing all of the typos. For you, spontaneous decisions are not trustworthy, because if you're doing it spontaneously, you're going to be doing it out of the emotional center. So you're either going to be doing it when you're feeling a high or when you're feeling a low, and that's not going to be completely authentic or accurate for you. So the one major rule for you with emotional authority is to never make decisions when you're on that emotional roller coaster. So how do you make decisions if you have emotional authority? Wait. Right? Don't do it spontaneously. Don't do it in the moment. Ask for more time to decide. So like if you're offered a job, for example, it's best not to answer immediately. Ask for 24 hours. Ask for a little bit of an extension. And if it is the right offer or situation for you, people will understand. If somebody gets upset that you're asking for more time, then it's obviously not right for you, because they're not meeting you where you're at, right? So you're going to ask for more time so that you can feel your feelings, so that you can ride that emotional wave, and whatever that looks like. You can journal, cry, move your body. I mean, those are just suggestions. For me, those are ways that I can move through any type of emotion that I'm feeling. Those of you who have emotional authority, I'd love to hear from you. Like, what has worked for you? Do you have little tips and tricks when you're needing to make either big decisions in life, like a career move or a relationship or anything like that? How do you make decisions? I do know I have one example from a client who was deciding whether or not to work with me, and she's like, you know what, I have emotional authority, so I'm going to wait and sit with this for 24 hours and then I'll get back to you on Monday. And I was like, that is totally fine. Like, that is what is right for you. So for those of us who don't have emotional authority, it's about accepting that and allowing them to take their time. Sasha says emotional. For me, what's worked is waiting at least a day to make a decision. And if I already made a decision but changed my mind, I've had to learn to speak up and say I need to change my mind. Healing my throat chakra has been a huge part of this. That's really, really interesting. What did you do to heal your throat chakra? I'm just curious. Tatiana says your daughter has emotional authority as an MG and she's only 2 years old, but do you have any tips on how I can help her as a mother work with her authority? Ooh, that's good. I think it can be about when she's in a high or a low, like if she's really excited about something or if she's really frustrated and upset about something, teaching her strategies to calm herself down or to get back to that calm level space, because the people who have defined emotional centers tend to feel their emotions very strongly. So I think the best tools for that age can be just emotional intelligence. Those of you who have emotional authority, what would you suggest? I think as you get older, taking time can be really important. Like Sasha said, 24 hours. It's a consistent process of healing the throat. It never stops. Singing helps, writing, speaking out on Instagram stories, talking stuff out, sometimes even in a mirror. I love that. And that would be super powerful too for anyone who has like self-projected authority or even environmental authority, which we can talk about later too. But speaking can be super, super powerful. Cool. Sacral Authority is the next one. I'm surprised we don't have any Sacral Authority people on here. They seem to be some of the most common in my clients. Chat. The very basic level, accept her emotions. I had parents who did not accept my emotions and made it hard to hear my authority. I'm just now learning how to listen to my emotions. Yes, that's so powerful. I think too, like Tatiana, because your solar plexus is not defined, you probably feel your daughter's emotions very strongly. So learning to recognize that those aren't yours and you don't have to take those on, but allowing her to feel them can be helpful for you as a parent. So accepting her emotions. Love that. Thanks, Jenna. So Sacral Authority is the next most common authority here, and it's only found in generators and manifesting generators because they're the people who have a defined sacral center. If you have a Sacral Authority, you need to listen or start feeling, paying attention to any kind of, it's like a gut feeling of or from your sacral center. And if you haven't practiced this, or if you're not aware of this, I think it can take a little bit of time to tune back into yourself and get out of your brain and back into your body. But it's going to be like, I've heard it described as like a guttural yes or no reaction. And people who have this authority tend to recognize it, like they know it. Like once you describe it, they're like, oh yeah, that's totally true. And so if you get no response when you're asking yourself a yes or no question, it doesn't mean it's wrong or you're doing anything wrong. It's just a no, or ask me again later, like not right now. Because if you don't pay attention to this and you start saying yes to people or any kind of work or job that doesn't bring you joy, you're going to feel overextended, and then it could lead to burnout and health problems. And if you need kind of a bigger perspective, like if your own health is not enough to motivate you, know that the rest of us with an undefined sacral center, the projectors, manifestors, and reflectors, we need you to be your brightest, most like magnetic self. We need you to be in love with the work that you do. We need you to be paying attention to your Sacral Authority and saying yes or no to these things so that you can be fully lit up, so that we can plug into you. Like we need that life force from you. So it's literally like your job to do that, so the rest of us can like feed off of that too. And how do you make decisions with a Sacral Authority? Yes or no questions. So like the easiest way is like, do you want pizza for dinner? And then you'll get like a yes or no, or Do you want to wear the blue shirt today? Or Try to avoid open-ended questions. So if you have Sacral Authority, like teaching the people in your life this little trick can help so many things. Or if somebody in your life has Sacral Authority, using this trick on them, like just asking them simple yes or no questions can help so much more than just like, where do you want to eat for dinner? They're like, I don't know. Like, but if you start asking them yes or no, then they're able to like decide one way or the other, and it can make things so much smoother. And then again, like finding a hobby or something that brings you joy if that thing is not your career, because we need you to have something in your life that you can pour all of your energy into, and that's going to light you up. I don't think we have any people with Sacral Authority on here, but if you do have it, tell us what's worked for you. Yeah, great advice, everyone. Thanks for sharing. I did a podcast interview with my friend Nicole and my friend Linda on my podcast where they both had Sacral Authority, and we talked about this, and they thought it was like super helpful and made so much sense, because I think sometimes people with Sacral Authority tend to get like overwhelmed. So simple yes or no questions are great. Splenic Authority. I've also had lots of podcast interviews with people with Splenic Authority. Carly, Katie, myself. The spleen is a really interesting one, and every time I talk to somebody new about human design and I explain like the spleen is one of your energy centers and how I make decisions with my spleen, I feel so like weird and crazy. But it's true. It's like, I know it sounds weird, but it makes so much sense to me. And it's one of those things that I just kind of always knew, but didn't have like a name for it. So your spleen is like that ancient intuition or awareness, kind of that fight or flight mode, knowing if something is safe or not. So if you have splenic authority, your body's using like that ancient and instinctual awareness to send you messages. That's the subtle hints that always occur in the moment. And so I put usually at the last second, but it can either be like the first instant or at the last second. And so it's about learning to pay attention to that and not use your mind so much, but trust those instinctual hits that you get. Sometimes it can feel like fear, like it's that fight or flight. And for me, it's like the bigger decisions. It's a yes, but it's also really scary because my body knows that that's what I need to do. Like deciding where to go to graduate school. It's like, oh, I know this is right, but that feels so scary. And so you just have to like trust and move through it. Or it can also be a strong hit for a no, like this job is not right for me. I know that I can't stay here, even though it looks great on the outside. It's just, I have that hit that this isn't right. And so you have to like quit your job that's super scary and everyone thinks you're crazy, but your spleen is telling you otherwise. So you could feel an instantaneous yes, that it's definitely meant for you, or you could feel that instant unease or like a deep inner knowing that this is not safe or right. So if you have splenic authority, pay attention to your instincts in the moment. These instincts often won't repeat themselves either. So you have to pay attention and you have to trust whatever it is, even if it doesn't make logical sense. And if it's something that's going to be happening at the last moment, you have to trust that you're going to know when the answer is correct for you. And this is something I have had to be practicing, is like the trusting piece and the faith that the answer will come, because I get a lot of like anxiety or like I need the answer right now. And it's like, I haven't gotten that hit yet, so I don't know. So patience and trust. Stop your mind and ego from taking over. Avoid thinking about things too broadly or like too much of a big picture, and just like stay in the moment, stay present. So if you have splenic authority, what's worked for you? Everyone you've met in real life with splenic authority has this vibe of like a rabbit, tense, ready to run, and precious. I'm intrigued. I don't totally know what that means. So yeah, like fight or flight instinct makes sense. Katie says, once you get a hit, you need to take action on it immediately, or else your mind will talk you out of it. And that's why you have to pay attention, because it's not going to repeat itself. And then you start getting too logical about it, or like your ego gets involved. So yeah, immediate action is big. This is the case with simple things like working out or living a relationship. See, I'm a little bit different than you, Katie, but I find it really interesting too, because that's when other pieces of your chart can come into play. Like I can get a hit on something, but then I also have a defined heart, which is like the place of the ego or will or drive. And so if it's something like working out, I get the hit and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna run this marathon, or I'm gonna go work out today. I can like lock that in and then just hold it until later, and then I won't let myself off the hook, right? Or starting a business, for example. I got the hit of human design's my thing. I need to run with this. And so I can like trust that hit, lock in that drive, and then run with it, / take lots of breaks and learn to rest as a projector. Yes, I have a slide for Q&A at the end. So if you want to write down your question or hold it, that would be fab. Yes, Katie, I love that. See, this is when it gets, like the authority is just like a a foundational piece of your human design chart, but then it gets so much deeper depending on your channels and your gates and your centers and all of that. So we all have to work with it a little bit differently, but this is the big picture of decisions. Okay, Hart Authority. So if your heart's defined, but your solar plexus, sacral, and spleen are not, you're going to have ego authority. And this can show up for manifestors or projectors, but it's going to be different for each one. So for manifestors, your heart authority reflects your ability to speak things into existence. And it's about not controlling your thoughts and just talking and listening to what you say. And when you start doing that, then you're going to hear what your truth is and what the best decision is for you, rather than being so like logical about it. And for projectors, it's similar, but you have to wait for the invitation first. And then when you get the invitation, it's about asking, what do you want? What's in it for you? And then feeling that pull from your heart center toward a yes, or pulling away from the invitation. I wish that I knew more people with ego authority, because for me, it sounds, I mean, it sounds kind of similar to splenic authority, but I know that it's not. Like can get that pull toward or away. But this is more about the ego, right? Like, what do I want? What's in this for me? And then for the pull, I've heard that it can actually feel like you're being pulled towards something or leaning back away from it. So how to make decisions. If you're a manifestor, stop thinking and start talking, just kind of like the free talking vibe, just letting things flow out of you. And for this too, I think it's really important to have people in your life that you can just talk to, who aren't going to be giving you advice, who aren't going to be trying to persuade you one way or the other, but they're just going to be like a sounding board for you. It can be super helpful. And for projectors, waiting for the invitation, which is a whole nother workshop. We can go into it another time. But as you're waiting, in the meantime, you can dive into learning a system that's going to help guide others, because that's what projectors are really here for. So, I mean, that system can be anything, but what's your specialty? What makes you excited? What do you want to help other people with? Like really perfecting your craft and whatever you're going to be guiding people through. And then having, I was reading up on this today, and it said a balance of like play and rest and work. And I hate the word balance because I don't think you ever really can be fully balanced, but being intentional about incorporating play and rest into your life, because both these manifestors and projectors have an undefined sacral center, so they need that downtime to rest and recharge. And again, I don't think we have any ego authority here on the workshop, but if you do have it, I'd love to hear from you. What's worked for you? I don't know for sure. I feel like for some reason I'm thinking he was emotional or sacral, but I could be making that up. Somebody could probably Google really quickly and find the answer. Self-projected authority. Tatiana, this is for you. So this is when your throat is connected to your G center, which is the yellow diamond right below it. And when you have self-projected authority, it's really important that you listen to what you say. And this is kind of what Sasha was saying earlier about healing your throat chakra. But for you, your truth is expressed through your identity, because that G center is like such a core piece of who you are, and that's where your sense of identity comes from. So if you have self-projected authority, it's your job to talk things out, but you might find yourself saying things like, I don't know how or why I know this, I just know. And that's okay. Like, you don't have to really know how or why. But you have lots of open centers in your chart, and it can be really easy for people with self-projected authority to get conditioned away from what their actual truth is, because they have so much open. So it's about like tapping back into you and trusting that voice and that identity. So with self-projected authority, talk it out with somebody you trust. And again, you're not talking to get their opinion, but to hear yourself talk. And when you hear your own words, you'll start to understand like your identity and your purpose, if you will, and you can move forward with that. So you can ask yourself, will this make me happy? Am I heading in the right direction for me? And Tatiana, I'd love to hear from you. I'm calling you out because you're one of the few people on the call with that authority. Has this worked for you? Do you find that talking things out help? And have you seen a difference in the moments when you talk things out versus when you don't? I know I did a chart reading with a friend who has this authority too. And when I said this to her, she was like, oh yeah, that's totally me. Like I have to talk it out with somebody or else I can't. Like I don't have a clear understanding of the situation or what I want to do. And so she definitely resonated with this. Absolutely. Yeah. It's so funny. I mean, not funny, but like fascinating how accurate these things are for us and how we can like see ourselves in it. You know, I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Environmental authority. Okay. So environmental authority is only found in mental projectors. So these people don't have any defined centers below their throat. So again, they have lots of openness in their chart, and they have a very deep reliance on their mind. So I imagine that it must be really tough for them to let go of that safety nets of their mind, you know. So for them, it's about receiving their guidance from the sensory information they get in their environment through their open centers. So the environment has to be a good fit for them. It has to feel good for them. They also need to bounce ideas off of other people. And talking things out helps them connect how they feel about the decision. So with environmental authority, it's about asking yourself, is this environment correct for me? Does this feel good? Because even if, like say the invitation is correct and the people are correct and everything else is good, but the environment's not, it's not going to work out. So everything has to kind of come together in a perfect little puzzle. And it can also be helpful to physically be in the environment that you're trying to make this decision about, and notice how you feel in it. If you have environmental authority, what's worked for you? I find this too, like my connection to this, like I don't have environmental authority, but I know whenever I'm deciding where I want to live, like a new apartment or city or whatever, like it doesn't have to make logical sense, but I can like walk into a space and be like, this is it. It just feels right. So I'm imagining that's kind of what it is for people with environmental authority too, but for like all the decisions in their life. Lunar Authority is for our special reflector friends. It's found only in reflectors, and these are the people who have all undefined centers in their chart, so none of their centers are colored in. And people with Lunar Authority, it's recommended that they wait 28 days before they make a decision. And this is so that the sun can move through all 64 gates of the mandala in human design. So I can show you on my book here. These are the 64 gates. And so every lunar cycle, every 28 days, the sun moves around and goes through all of the gates. And so because their chart's so open, they're getting all of this like information from their open centers. So they need that time for the sun to move through, because when the sun's through, we get more energy from that specific gate. So if it moves through all of it, then they've kind of had a complete cycle. All of their things have been activated. They're able to process everything. It's kind of like emotional authority, where it's like ride that wave out and then make your decision. But their cycle is 28 days. And within that time, during those 28 days, they can also talk out their decision with people and voice it and be considering all of their options. So if you have the Lunar Authority, slow down. Don't let the world rush you. Again, ask for more time if possible. Pay attention to your environment. Reflectors are heavily influenced by their environment. So pay attention to it. If you're not surrounded by the right people or the right place, you're not going to feel well. You might feel like uneasy or frustrated or angry or tired. So environment's huge. And then find a trusted friend or advisor or a therapist or somebody that you can talk to, who's not going to try to persuade you or voice their opinion, but just going to let you talk and get your thoughts, your feelings, all of that out of you, so then you can make your full decision. And what's the point of all of this? So we touched on this at the beginning, but again, human design calls it liberating your mind. So it's freeing your mind from making the decisions, because that's not the point of our mind. And the more we free our mind by making decisions with our strategy and our authority, the more valuable, I would say, like the stronger our mind becomes. And then we can use our mind to think, to question, to interpret, to teach, to inspire, remember, organize, name, and process data. Like that's what our mind is for, is all of those things. And if we can free it by not using it to make decisions, because we're making decisions with our authority, then our mind becomes even stronger in these other areas. And then once, like, that's when we become completely aligned. We're removing all that extra noise and that stress off of our mind. We're removing that pressure, we're removing that ego, and then that's when our head, our ajna, our throat, all of these places become more clear, and that's when we can share what we find most valuable, what's unique to us, and I think that's like what I'm trying to say here in this final little paragraph is like that's when our gifts come through to the world. That's when we can really like shine our light. That's when we show up fully. That's when like we can give what we have to offer and other people can fully receive it. Like that's what they've been waiting for. But it's harder for that to happen if we're using our mind to make decisions all the time. Boom, Q&A. Moving into the Q&A. So any questions? This is your chance. Tatiana said, oftentimes I was looking for advice when I noticed that I answered my question while talking it through. Yeah. And I mean, I think that's a natural human thing, is like we don't fully trust ourselves. So we want to hear other people's opinions and get their advice. But yeah, I bet the people who do that a lot and they're like, well, I just answered my own question, like they probably have environmental or self-projected authority. So yeah. Which authority can make decisions far in advance versus which should wait until they're in the moment? I think someone with sacral authority could make a decision in advance. Like they can ask themselves those questions and see what they feel like pulled to, like the or and I'm thinking like the self-projected authority might be able to make decisions in advance too. Tatiana, have you found that to be true for you? Splenic authority people need to be in the moment. Solar plexus, emotional authority, you have to write it out. So you definitely can't be in the moment making decisions. Reflectors can't make decisions in the moment. But yeah, I mean, definitely I think sacral people can do it in advance. How does writing the emotional wave? Do you want to say hello? No. Just interrupting. How does writing the emotional wave actually help those with emotional authority to make decisions? Because people with emotional authority have very strong emotions and they can let that influence their decisions if they're making decisions in the moment. So you could be having an emotional high and people are like, do you want to join in on this project we're doing? And you're like, yes, I feel so excited and fired up. And then the next day, like you've ridden that wave out and you're like, oh, actually, I don't want to do that. I was just riding that wave. Like I was in the moment. Or you're really angry, frustrated, sad about something, and your friend's like, hey, can you come help me with this? And you're like, no, I can't. But if you had just waited 24 hours and ridden that wave out, then you could be like, yes, I want to fully show up for my friend and help with this situation. So it's like it's allowing yourself to ride the wave so your emotions don't take over and you're just in a calm place making decisions that are fully like authentic for you. Does that make sense, Jenna? I was talking to someone, was it you, Katie? No, I don't think it was you. I think it was a chart reading I was doing for a client last week. And we were talking about emotional authority. And she's like, why is it called that if I'm not making decisions with my emotions? And I was like, yeah, I think that it's, I mean, I don't know why they decided to name it that, but it's like, it's emotional authority so that you don't make decisions with your emotions. So after the emotions pass, is it like a sense of just knowing the answer, or is it that the emotions you feel give you the insights you need to make the decision? I can give my own answer, but I don't have emotional authority and I don't want to give the wrong answer and I don't actually know the answer. So I know Sasha has experience with this if she wants to. Yeah, Sasha, what's your take? I'm thinking that it's you write out your emotions, the highs and the lows, and you think, yes, I'm in, and no, I'm out, and yes, I'm in, and no, I'm out. And then you're calm, and they're like, okay, what do I actually want? So it's like your true, authentic self gets to make the decision versus your emotions. Yeah, I've also heard that you're never 100% certain. It's more like you're going to be like 80%, and that's when you can say yes. But based off on your question, Jenna, I would say it's not that your emotions give you the insights. I mean, maybe I do, but I feel like you can't ever truly trust your emotions because it's all just your interpretation, right? Like you're attaching value to that when it might not actually be the truth. So you could be like, oh, when I'm on a high, I was totally interested in this and it sounded fun. But when I was at a low point, that sounded really annoying and I was mad that it was going to take up my time. So you have both of these, but like, is either one actually true? Because when you're at a calm, level place, you're going to be like, I'm in or I'm not. I don't know. I'm just riffing here. If you're not certain on this, Jenna, I would treat it as an experiment and go through it and try making decisions both ways and like ride that wave and be like, okay, if I use whatever I gained during this emotional wave as my not evidence, but my like support for my decision, how does that feel? Is it helpful? Or if I just ride out the wave and don't consider what I felt during the highs and lows and wait till I'm at a calm point and then just decide in that moment, how does that feel? Because it could be that people with emotional authority do it differently. Like different people do it. Yeah. I'd be interested to know. I think that's a really good question. I just kind of always assumed that it was you don't take those emotions or what you felt into consideration. You just wait till it's over and then decide. But that could be wrong. So yeah, super good question. Any questions about other authorities or anything else? I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to add. Oh, you have another one. Okay. No problem. I was on a Zoom call last night, like a free workshop, and the person asked if anyone had questions and then didn't wait for anyone to type. Like I was typing a question and she was already like wrapping up and I was like, okay, I guess I won't ask my question. Yes, I like this question, Sasha. So I haven't done a ton of research. So again, I don't know, I'm just speaking from experience, but like Okay, I'm going to read it for people who don't see it. How does having your spleen defined, for instance, when you have emotional authority, affect your decision-making process, or your heart defined when you have splenic authority? So I have splenic authority, but my heart is also defined. So I think this is where the conditioning can come in. I think this is when you have to be aware of it. And I think this is where people who are just getting into human design can have, it can be challenging. Because I know I'm very ego-driven, very ambitious. When I decide I want something, I'm like all in for it. And I'll do whatever it takes, which can go against my projector type as well. So making decisions, I had to learn to not do it out of ego, and do it out of like the instincts. And like I was saying earlier with Katie, I can make a decision and then use my heart, my defined heart, to support that, but I don't want to do it the other way around. So for instance, I have a part-time job. They offered me a full-time position. My ego was like, yes, that sounds great. I want the prestige that comes with that. I want the paycheck that comes with that. But my initial instinct was like, no, I don't want that. I don't. And I'm so glad that I didn't. Like, it would have been a disaster. But I had to like trust that instinct versus the heart that wanted it, just because it looked good and it would have been great on paper. So I think if somebody with emotional authority has a defined spleen, it might not be as hard, because the splenic authority, the spleen is very quiet, versus your emotions are probably going to be much louder and stronger. So they're probably like drowning out the spleen anyway. And so I think for you, the spleen is probably just more about like security and instincts in other areas of your life. That's what I would guess. I don't know. This is an interesting one too. I'd love to sit down and like go through all the different authorities and like what combinations they could have and how that would affect their decision-making process. So we're like, okay, if you're self-projected authority and your head's also defined, how is that going to impact it versus if your head's open? I don't know. It can be fascinating. Okay. I mean, I feel like the authority hierarchy came to be because that was the download that Ra Urahu got. That's what I mean, the hierarchy is in the book. It's just listed. So take it for what you will. But again, I think it can go back to which one is the strongest. And I don't mean strong in like it's better, but it's like the loudest one. So emotional authority, your emotions are going to be louder. They're going to be stronger. Versus like the sacral, that's, if you talk to somebody with sacral authority and explain it to them, they're like, oh yeah, I get that. It totally makes sense. So they know that about themselves. They can hear that guttural response. They can hear that voice. And then if you go on and talk to somebody with splenic authority, they're like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. But even like I have it, Katie has it, we're both aware of it. When we found out, we were like, yes, I get it. You still have to tune in and pay attention, because that hit is quieter than someone with sacral authority, or especially somebody with emotional authority. So I think it's like, which one's the loudest? And then if you get into like self-projected authority, they don't even get a hit. They have to talk it out. So it's going to take time, you know? So I'm assuming it's like in terms of the intensity that you feel it. I don't know. Y'all are asking such good questions. I'm like, I have so many things I need to go research and learn. Yeah, because this book, the Definitive Book of Human Design, it doesn't actually explain how the hierarchy came to be. It just says there's several centers in the body graph that can be defined as a personal authority, and each one represents a different way or mode of making decisions. The hierarchy is listed below. So, yeah. Okay, any other questions? This is super fun, by the way. I love doing these because, I mean, one, I love just sharing the information that I have, but then I feel like I always learn so much too. So it's like I get to dive deeper into all of this too, and it's awesome. Okay, let me look back at my slideshow here, Q&A. Okay, the last piece, everyone always says, okay, that's great, now what? So you have all this information, how do you go deeper into it? The first piece is always starting with your type, your strategy, and your authority. We didn't even talk about strategy today. Hopefully you know what your strategy is. But you all have a type. So manifester, generator, manifesting generator, projector, or reflector. Then your strategy. So if you're a manifestor, your strategy is to initiate or to inform people of what you've decided. If you're a generator or manifesting generator, your strategy is to respond. If you're a projector, your strategy is to wait for the invitation. And if you're a reflector, it's to wait a lunar cycle. So experiment with that, and then also start building in your authority in there for making decisions. And if you have any questions about it, like Jenna's question was great of like, what does this actually mean? How do you actually do this? For me, I believe human design is just a tool for us to use. And there's not like a cut and dry way to do it. And there's nothing that you like have to do or you're doing it wrong. Like take it, play with it, experiment with it, and take the pieces that work for you. Like it's not supposed to make you feel bad or feel like you're doing anything wrong. It's supposed to make your life easier and get you more into a state of like flow and ease. So experiment with it and see. Like I know for me, just learning this piece of like, okay, I'm not making decisions with my head anymore. Just releasing that and being like, I'm just going to tune in and trust my spleen, as weird as it sounds. It feels so freeing and it feels really good. And I think that's the point of all of this, is just do what feels good. So experiment with your type, your strategy, and your authority, and see how it feels. Like they say, the founders of human design say it can take like 7 years to just get those pieces down and to begin living authentically according to your design without even getting into your channels and gates and all of that. So that's a really, really great starting point. And then if you do want to dive deeper into this, I do personalized chart readings where we spend an hour going over your specific chart and what does it all mean and how does this play out for you and what are your talents and gifts and all of that. And I'd be happy to do one for you. If you're interested, you can email me. My email is humandesignwithashley@gmail.com. And then we have lots of fun programs coming up soon. I just wrapped up the Projector Project, which was a 3-week program for projectors. And we're going to be doing some for the other types, and then lots of other fun surprises coming up in the future too. Any final questions before we wrap up? It's exactly 4 o'clock now. We did amazing with our timing, friends. And I apologize for the distractions back here with my sister. I texted her earlier and I was like, when are you coming home? She's like, probably around 3:30. And I was like, oh great, I'm doing a call at 3 o'clock. Perfect timing. Okay, you're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. If y'all think of any other questions, you can reach out to me on Instagram, Human Design with Ashley, or email me, humandesignwithashley@gmail.com. Yeah, I want to do more of these regularly, but it's so hard. I don't know my schedule. I think I'm going to have to start telling my boss that I need like set days that I work, because it's so hard to plan ahead when my schedule changes every week. So, all right. Yeah, thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. This was super fun, and I hope you have a fabulous rest of your Monday, and I'll talk to you later. Bye, friends.